That's a lot of books. Hello, and welcome to this week's video. Today, I'm going to be taking you through all of the books I read in February. I read a lot. And it's actually really cool to see them all piled together because I, didn't really realize how many books I'd read until, you put them all together and, that's a lot of words. That's not even all of them. What? In a month? Wild. And, the shortest month of the year. What? Okay, anyways, happy February. I hope you guys had an amazing month. This is likely coming out beginning of March, so happy March. Okay, we're gonna start off with the first book I finished this month, which was DUNE. I finished this on the first of the month, so I wasn't sure if, this really counted because I barely read it in February, but I finished it in February. DUNE. Man, this book is huge. It was a great book. I really liked it. It was interesting when I was reflecting on it because some parts felt super slow, but it was a really fast book at the same time. I don't know. I really enjoyed the book. I want to read the next ones. I loved the movie, and I can't wait for the next movie to come out. I watched the movie before I saw the book, and I actually kind of liked that because it gave me kind of some visuals to put along with the book because there's just so much creativity and world building in this book, and I feel like having the backing of a movie was, really cool. Timothée Chalamet is also just cute. But I really liked it. It is a hefty book. It took me 2 weeks to read. It just, some of it, some parts I just had to stop. I like books, some of the other books I read this month that I could just go, but this wasn't really one of those books. You kind of had to take it chunk by chunk. I don't know, I'm conflicted. I think it's a really good book. I really liked it. But I understand some people's ill attraction to it because it is a very weirdly paced book in some ways, but I think the story is so incredible. And I was not, no spoilers, I'm not going to actually say anything, but I was not expecting the book to end in the way it did, and I thought it was very empowering and very sweet and I'm still very sad, but I don't know. It makes me really interested to read the next ones and kind of see how it continues to play out. But yeah, big book. I also, okay, this is more about the structure of the actual published book. I have one of the big, little copies that are super chunky. I know they do have copies that are more this width, but I really liked the format of it because the words are super, the length, the margins are super small. So the text is only within here, so your eyes don't have to move as far, and I think it made it easier to read. And the pages moved super, super fast in that way. Next up, the book series that had me in a chokehold this month, Serpent and Dove. This book was sitting on my shelf for a little bit. I bought it a while ago, and I had wanted to read it for a while, and I finally picked it up, and oh my god, I read this book in 3 or 4 days. I tore through it. It was so good. It makes my heart flutter. When you read a fantasy book and it just absolutely blows your mind. It was this. And it's definitely one of my top favorite series. Adding it to the list of 5. But it was so good. It's about a woman who it's about a woman who's a witch, and she gets married to a religious dude that is a witch hunter. Not something I thought I would have liked, but it's very satirical and ironic and beautiful. Oh, it's so good, so empowering. She's such a strong character, and then also seeing the character development of Reed and just them together, and just, I don't know, it's such a powerfully beautiful book. So many interesting plot developments and plot spin-offs. I really, really loved it. The first book, I think all of the books were great. I honestly can't remember. I can't separate them in my brain anymore because literally, as I was about to finish this book, I literally went one day to go to the bookstore. The bookstore only had the third one, so I ordered the second one on Amazon. I read all of them within 15 days, I think. Was it 15,000 words? No. 1,500 words in almost 15 days. Close to that. This stack. I wish they matched, but also I'm not a huge person about that. I don't really care. I just love books. But they're decently sized books. The last one's the biggest, but all of the books were so beautiful, and it kept me engaged the entire time, obviously, because I was literally like running to get the next ones. I think the series is over. I think it's a trilogy, but the writing is so beautiful, and the character development and just like the attention to detail and just all of it like is so astonishing and so beautiful. And if you're looking for like a fantasy book that like Throne of Glass or like just any of like the really popular high fantasy books right now, this is it. Like, you know, like when you read a really good series and you don't know if you're ever gonna be able to find something like it. That's like me with a lot of my really good fantasy books, and then I'm always proven wrong, and it makes me really happy. And this is one of those books. This is like one of those series. So if you're looking for like a good fantasy series to like kind of like set you on fire and to get you like reignited again, read it. And get the next ones, because you're gonna want them as soon as possible. My favorite character, I'm not gonna say like, my favorite character is the wood spirit, the staghorn. That's all I'm gonna say. But the coolest character, and Lou is amazing obviously, but like the characters, like the character relationships in this book are so strong and so incredible and like so consistent. I don't know. I can't like recommend this book series enough. I've talked about this book so much on stream, on YouTube. Like, if you are looking for a good book series, hit them up. So this month, one of my goals was to kind of get through a lot of the books on my shelf that I had been neglecting to read, and this was one of them. Actually, all of like the 4 books I read this month, except for, besides like the 2 series books, they were books I neglected to read that were on my shelf that I was putting off. And I put myself on a book buying ban for the past 2 months to try to get through some of them. I broke it yesterday. We'll talk about that at the end. But the next book is The Downstairs Girl. This was actually gifted to me by my auntie for Christmas. Definitely not something I would have picked out, which is why I love getting gifted books, because I feel like other people will get you stuff that is interesting to them or that they think you'll like, that you like likely wouldn't get on your own or wouldn't immediately gravitate towards. This is a historical fiction book about a Chinese woman who's living in America, I think pretty close after the abolition of slavery, and southern rural America, and just her dealing with the grievances of racism and just horrible stuff and class systems and all of that. But it's such a beautiful book. Words, like, it's so beautiful, it's so good. You really get invested in the characters, and it took like 100 pages for me to like really get into it, but her relationship with some of the characters is so beautiful. There's such a huge plot twist, which I was not expecting, but just the plot development in this book is so well done. The writing is beautiful. The empowerment of this character is so beautiful. Her coming into her own power, but also building a community and being supported by a community that, like, I mean, obviously she deserves to be supported by, but like wasn't common in that time. And just seeing, like, I don't know, just seeing unity and just strength and brevity, just so incredible. All of the characters in this book are so good. And I just like the interconnectedness of the community in this book. I highly, highly, highly recommend. It's such an amazingly beautiful book, and it is fairly short, I guess short for my standards. It's 350 pages. But it's a really beautiful book. I highly recommend it. Like, I obviously don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to spoil anything, but it's definitely such a good book, and I highly recommend it. Especially, like, I feel like this is a good introduction to historical fiction, because it's not super dense in a lot of ways. Like, obviously there is very, like, horrific content in terms of, like, racism and stuff, so trigger warning for that, but it's not as brutal as other historical fiction books are, and I don't know, I think it's a really beautiful balance between the two. But obviously I love so many historical fiction books, and it's actually like reignited my love for historical fiction. I don't read a ton of it, but when I do, I always love it so much. And like, I don't know, it just offers a really unique perspective that I've never really explored before, and it has made me want to like research into more stuff, especially about like the historical like treatment of Chinese people, especially after the abolition of slavery, which it briefly gets into. Well, obviously the entire book is about the treatment of a Chinese person in America, but just like the historical implications and systems in place like of discrimination against Chinese people. Like, I think that's something that like I was never really taught in high school or like in history, like kind of their adjacent treatment, especially after the like abolition of slavery. I don't know, something that like really got my mind working and I really want to look into more. But very great book. That was a very long-winded rant. Okay, the final book I read this month was Slaughterhouse Five. This is a book that my brother gifted me for Christmas. He gifted me 4 books and he told me to space them out because otherwise I would have read them all in a month. So this was this month's book, Slaughterhouse Five. I finished this yesterday and I'm a little conflicted. Don't come for me, please. And I would actually love to hear your guys' thoughts on this book, because in all of the books, but particularly this one, because I don't know how I feel yet and I'm still processing it. I think like I understand what he was trying to do in terms of like portraying PTSD and just kind of like the fucked up stuff that comes with it, but I don't know how strong the message really was, and maybe that was on purpose. I don't know. It was a good book. I'd give it like 3.5, 4 stars. I thought like some of the characters were really funny. Some of the interactions were really funny. It was a very bizarre book, like especially the structure. Like, it's so fragmented. Like, there's like ellipses everywhere showing breaks in time. He's time traveling all the time, which is just his PTSD discerning, like not being able to discern what's real and what's not, and what's history and what's future. I understand that, but it's I don't know. Like, okay, there is a thing on the back: a splendid art, a funny book at which you're not permitted to laugh, a sad book without tears. And I think that perfectly describes it, because it's numb in a way, I think is the best way to describe it. Okay, now that I'm like audibly processing it, I understand how effective it was, because it's just so numb, it's so disconnected, which makes sense because this dude is like severely struggling with PTSD. So having it be so distorted makes so much sense. But the back, that little like review completely sums it up, because it is funny but not funny because it's war. And then it's sad, but every time something sad happens, he just goes, and so, like, he just makes it, like, what does he say all the time? So it goes. He says so it goes every single time. Like, something really abrupt happens. Like, I don't know, like, the juxtaposition of, like, something really intense happening and then him kind of, like, just being like, yeah, it happened. Like, I don't know, it just kind of toned down the intensity a bit, but also showed how extreme everything was. I don't know. I'm still having trouble processing this book, but I do think it was good, and I think that's the intention of like this struggle I'm having in my head to describe it. But a great book, I think. I really liked his writing. I do want to read more of his books. My brother read a couple, and so I definitely like want to read more of his books because I'm interested in his writing, but that's all I'm gonna say on that. So that's all the books I've read this month. I guess, okay, today is the 28th, so I've started a new book last night after finishing this one the previous morning. So this is Wild Magic by Tamora Pierce. It's the Immortals series. I love Tamora Pierce's writing so much. This is like my 7th or 8th book I've read by her, or by them. I don't know their pronouns, so I'm gonna say them. And they are so incredible. So the series all falls into the same universe, so they follow a timeline. And so the last one I think is the Becca Cooper series, which was what I started with, and the first one is the one with Alana, the Linus, and so that's the first one. This is the second one, I believe, and it's so good. I'm already almost halfway through it. I'm gonna finish it probably tomorrow. But it's so good. It's so incredible. Like, if I had the time, I could read this in one sitting. Like, it is such a perfect book. I love the way she develops her characters. Like, I think they're so well written and so they're just beautiful, and the character like interactions between each other, the relationships that are built, it's all just so beautiful. If you haven't read any of Tamora Pierce's writing, I highly recommend you do, because it is so good. And the books are really cheap if you thrift them. Like, I thrift most of the books, and if you get like a mass market paperback, it's like $4 for a book. So I highly recommend it. I get all my books from thrift books if I don't get them from an independent bookstore, so I highly recommend that. I literally ordered the second one last night. And I'm really, really excited. I love her writing so much. So then yesterday I kind of went on a book buying spree, because I was like, okay, it's been 2 months. You've done really well. I'm gonna let you buy some more books. This is just like my internal conversation. So I went to Greenlight, which is like one of my favorite bookstores. They're like a queer, well, I don't think they're actually like marketed as queer, but they're a very representative like business. Like, they have a lot of inclusivity, and it's just a beautiful bookstore. And I got 2 books. I got Freshwater, which is by a Nigerian author, and it's about a non-binary Nigerian. And then the second one I got is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hughes, or Evelyn Hugo, I'm sorry. I'm very excited to read those both. And then I ordered some books on Thrift Books. I ordered 5 books. 3 of them are like green witch books, because I've been trying to get more into herbalism and green witchery and stuff, just because I'm growing into my craft and really want to learn more about that. So I got 3 books on that topic, and then I got the second book of this series, and then I got Sith, which looks so good. I'm actually really excited to read it. It's a fiction fantasy book. The blurb is so interesting. It's basically like they abolished death, like they overcame death, but then these people are forced to kill people because no one dies, and you have to regulate the population. I don't know. It looks so interesting, and I'm really excited to read it. I'm excited for all of those books to arrive. But the biggest thing that's happening is my House of Sky and Breath book is coming today. It took so long for me to get it. No fault to like literally Sarah J. Maas or like the shipping company or any of that. It was like my own fault. But it's coming today or tomorrow, and I'm literally gonna cry. I'm gonna do a little reading vlog on that, and that'll probably be out in a month. I don't know. It'll be out sometime. Just keep an eye on that, out for that. But I'm so excited. Like, truly so excited. I get so emotional every time I talk about how excited I am for this book, because I'm so excited. But yeah, that comes like soon, and I literally am gonna run to the mail room as soon as I get the email. I'm so excited. Books are so amazing. I'm so grateful for books. I don't know. Like, truly so incredible. But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I was not expecting to film almost 20 minutes of content talking about my books I read this month, but I hope you enjoyed. I think it's a cool way to like come back to all the books I've read in a month and just kind of see what I thought about them, and just like to document the amount of books I've read. I don't know, I think it's a really cool thing, and I hope you enjoyed. Maybe you got inspired to read one of these books. I hope you did. But also tell me what you thought if you've read any of these books. I'd be so interested to hear. But thank you so much for being here. Make sure to drink some water, eat some food, and stay healthy, homies, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye! Back with me. Oh my god, it's even prettier than I thought it would be.